In our community, we help each other. But when it comes to prescription pain medication, such as opioids, sharing isn't helping, it's harming. What works for you could be dangerous, even deadly for somebody else. Don't share your opioids. Instead, help by guiding your family, friends, and neighbors to a doctor. Real help saves lives. This message is brought to you by the Multicultural Community Family Services in partnership with LRTN. Did you know 1 in 4 patients who take opioids long-term become addicted? Opioids are strong pain medications like oxycodone, hydrocodone, or morphine. They can help with pain, but they can also lead to addiction and overdose. Take the medication only the way your doctor tells you to take it. And never share them with your family, friends, or neighbors. Know the risks. Stay safe. This message is brought to you by the Multicultural Community Family Services in partnership with LRTN.
Today we are unveiling the Pennsylvania Food and Hunger Relief Grant Program. This is legislation that will allocate $50 million from the Rainy Day Fund, which is a huge fund of several billion dollars. It will provide this money to the Department of Agriculture, who can then send the money to food banks. This is the emergency. We're proposing an additional As you may know, SNAP food benefits end Saturday, November the 1st, should the federal shutdown still be in place, crushing families and neighbors across Pennsylvania. This is an emergency. And as you may know, also on November the 1st is when the new paperwork requirements begin for SNAP food recipients. And these paperwork requirements mean the individuals 18 to 64, who are not disabled will be required to come up with 80 hours of work, school, or volunteering. And we are here to be very clear that we can do something about it. I'm Art Haywood, a member of this fantastic Senate Democratic Caucus. I'm in the 4th Senate District, and I also serve as the Democratic Chair of the Health and Human Services Committee. And I'm here with my colleagues because we know that these changes are going to make people hungry, disabled, hungry, veterans hungry, children hungry. It's hard to be in a more outrageous position than to be holding up the food for our neighbors. We have gone around the Commonwealth to share that denying food to people is a violation of their dignity. Having food is an essential part of just being a person and being recognized as a person. Now, I do want to share some specific examples. I was on a town hall, a 62-year-old woman who was retired on a fixed income, retired, past all the years of her work. And she asked me, will I now be required to do the 80 hours a month of paperwork requirements? And the answer, unfortunately, yes, unless she can fall into some of these specialized exemptions. A grocery store owner in my district said to me that 80%, 8 out of 10 of his customers are SNAP food recipients. And of course, he's very concerned whether you have to lay off individuals if they don't have the assistance or close his store. There are 2 million Pennsylvanians, 2 million, relying on these SNAP assistance. Now, fortunately, I've traveled the state and heard from folks in Erie, Clinton County, Monroe County, Lancaster, Bucks County, my own counties, Montgomery and Philadelphia, and more. And folks are just trying to make ends meet. SNAP food assistance already only covers about 3 of the 4 weeks because, as you may know, it is supplemental assistance. The foundation, we don't have. Most recently, when the National Administration announced that they weren't going to have any food benefits as of November 1 without a budget, a disabled veteran contacted me directly. He was angry, he was frustrated, he was desperate. And then he said to me, Art, what are you going to do about it? Now, I come from a faith tradition that is, we got to feed the hungry. Hopefully, most of us do, with or without a faith tradition. And I'm glad to say that here, the Senate Democratic Caucus has an answer of what we can do about it and what I can share with my neighbor who's disabled. Today, we are unveiling the Pennsylvania Food and Hunger Relief Grant Program. This is legislation that will allocate $50 million from the Rainy Day Fund, which is a huge fund of several billion dollars. It will provide this money to the Department of Agriculture, who can then send the money to food banks. This is the emergency. We're proposing an additional $10 million for Meals on Wheels. This is an emergency, and $2 million to cover the administrative costs. When you have an emergency, what is the Rainy Day Fund for? Emergencies. We are in an emergency when 2 million individuals may not be able to have food to eat on Sunday the 2nd, Monday the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, the 7th, whenever the clowns in D.C. figure it out. This relief program will get money directly to every county in the Commonwealth, touching at least 18 food banks. Now, we're not crazy. We know that this will not replace the over $300 million in monthly SNAP assistance that comes to the Commonwealth. This is not a $300 million program. This is not a SNAP replacement program, but it is getting money to the organizations that can feed many Pennsylvanians who will be without food on November the 1st. I'm asking my colleagues here in the House, my Republican colleagues in the Senate, to join me, to join this caucus in getting this desperately needed assistance to those who will otherwise be hungry. Now I want to pass the mic to Julie Bancroft, the CEO of Feeding Pennsylvania. But before I do so, in addition to supporting this legislation, I ask all who are here or who may be listening or viewing to do a few things that you can do to help a neighbor. Volunteer at a local food bank or distribution center. Contact your elected officials and let them know what we are doing here and let them know that they can support us. Volunteer at your recreation centers, your food banks. Just realize we must take care of our neighbors at this desperate time. Hunger does not discriminate based upon race or gender or zip code or any other ways we might want to identify. But we need to accept that on November the 1st, millions of Pennsylvanians will not have food assistance that they will be relying on to eat on the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, and throughout that week. There's a time to join together. This is it. We've got billions in rainy day, and this is only a meager request for $600 million so that we can see that our neighbors get to eat. Having said that, I'd like to, as I mentioned earlier, turn it over to Julie Bancroft from Feeding Pennsylvania. Thank you, Julie.
Thank you so much, Senator Haywood. Good afternoon. I'm pleased to be here this afternoon. And I just want to get started off by saying, despite the data, lately there seems to be a reluctance to acknowledge the reality of hunger in our Commonwealth. Hunger in Pennsylvania has risen 44% over 2 years. Our network of 9 food banks serves 1.7 million people annually. 1 in 6 children in Pennsylvania go hungry, and our food banks distribute more than 237 million pounds of food each year. Yet it still isn't enough to meet the need. Food banks are remarkably resilient and efficient. They are built to handle such moments. However, we are facing a perfect storm. Earlier this year, $13 million in federal funding for partnerships between local agriculture and the Charitable Food Network and $6 million in federal emergency food orders were canceled. On top of that, nearly $30 million in vital funds through the State Food Purchase Program and the Pennsylvania Agricultural Surplus System, or PASS, are stalled in the budget deadlock. Additionally, because of the federal shutdown, federal workers who are not being paid are turning to the charitable food system. And now, 2 million Pennsylvanians will lose access to their SNAP benefits starting November 1. And I just want to point out an important stat, that for every meal that food bank provides, SNAP provides 9. So where will these neighbors turn? They're going to turn to food banks and pantries. Many will access these resources for the first time because their SNAP benefits had been just enough to get by. We've let politics cloud our humanity. Outside of this building, real people are managing very real concerns about their own survival. Last week, when DHS announced that the November SNAP payments would be halted, our network was instantly overwhelmed with outreach from panicked neighbors and pantries. Individuals grappled with how they would access food to feed their families. Emails came into our website asking how to get food without transportation. And pantries scrambled to figure out how to keep enough food on their shelves to meet the impending wave of need. Like I said, food banks are resilient, and across America, the charitable food system will do everything it can to meet this moment. But we're in a unique and precarious position here in Pennsylvania. We're the only state in the nation that does not have an enacted state spending plan, and our food banks simply cannot do this alone. Those with on-site pantries are already seeing their daily numbers double. They are fielding calls from the VA and the TSA about resources for their employees who aren't being paid. 8 of our 9 food banks are accessing cash reserves to try to put money on account for pantries to keep their shelves stocked. These backup resources are not infinite and will quickly dry up if we don't get funding moving. I saw a comment on an article about the suspension of SNAP benefits that said people should work 3 jobs to put food on the table. Is that our expectation for a veteran who dedicated a lifetime of service to this country, a senior with limited mobility who depends on public transportation, and a mom already working 2 jobs while trying to be present for her children? Do we expect them to work 3 jobs just to have food? By holding up millions of dollars in essential funding for food banks amidst this perfect storm, we are turning our backs on the citizens who help this Commonwealth thrive by withholding resources that give them access to the healthy foods that they need to thrive. So on behalf of the millions of people our network serves, my plea is to remember our collective humanity and to help our network meet this moment as they are designed to do. And I want to thank Senator Haywood and the caucus for this relief package. Thank you so much. And it is my pleasure to introduce Shyla Ulrich, CEO of Central Pennsylvania Food Bank.
Thanks, Julie, and thanks, Senator Haywood. It's a pleasure to be here today and to speak on behalf of the 8 other Feeding America food banks across our Commonwealth. We're deeply grateful to our state and our federal partners for your ongoing efforts to fight hunger, but today I must be candid. We're in a long-term hunger crisis, and the current budget impasse and the federal threats are making it an already difficult job even harder. The state budget delay has left critical hunger relief programs like SFPP and PASS without clarity or committed funding. These programs are the backbone of our ability to purchase fresh, healthy, Pennsylvania-grown food and to move it quickly to families in every county. Prior to coming to the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, I had the honor to operate an agency partner in Lebanon County, and it was a story that I heard not once or twice, but dozens and dozens of times, where a mom or a dad would come in and would sit across from me to register for food and say, "I'm so sorry, I'm here today, but I looked at my pantry and I have a pack of ramen and I know that's not enough to feed my kids tonight." That's a story that is heard over and over again, a story of families who passed by the doors of a pantry 6, 7, 8 times before they had the courage to step inside. Walking into a pantry and telling strangers, a room full of strangers, that you cannot feed your children is an act of courage. And your commitment to helping us be able to do that across our Commonwealth is greatly appreciated and deeply felt by the people who are helped by this. When these dollars are uncertain with SNAP, with state food purchase, with PASS, trucks are delayed, shelves go unstocked, and the people we serve, seniors, veterans, children, wait longer for the food that they need. At the same time, the federal budget uncertainty threatens to further unravel this safety net. Any cuts or delays to programs like TFAP, to SNAP, or WIC will drive even more families to food banks that are already operating beyond capacity. We've seen a 44% increase in demand in the last 2 years, while the cost of food, fuel, and distribution remains high. Every week, we meet more working families, people with jobs, who are choosing between groceries, rent, and medicine. Last week, we saw a 60% increase of individuals seeking services at the food bank. This week, we had 100 families in 7 days, 5 business days, accessing services through the food bank. And we aren't a direct distributor of food. We usually ask our families to go out into partner agencies to receive services. We do emergency food resources within our food bank, and so 100 families in 5 business days. This is no longer an emergency that'll pass. It's a sustained structural crisis, one that requires policy stability and bipartisan leadership. Food banks are strong. We've been strong. We're resilient, but we cannot fill the gaps left by prolonged inaction. So to our congressional leaders here in Pennsylvania, I say this with gratitude and urgency. Please act swiftly. Ensure that hunger programs remain funded and protected, because every day of delay means another family facing an empty fridge. Together, we can make sure no Pennsylvanian goes hungry, but we can't do it alone. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Senator Judy Schwenk.
Thank you very much, and good morning, good afternoon, everyone. If this is not a crisis, I don't know what is a crisis. To use hunger as a political weapon is unconscionable. It is just unconscionable. Yes, I'm State Senator Judy Schwenk, and I represent the 11th District in Pennsylvania, which encompasses the city of Reading and suburban and urban areas, as well as some very rural areas as well. And I also serve as one of the co-chairs of the Senate Agriculture and Rural Affairs Committee. In my district, there's a very real sense of worry. Almost 50,000 people in our county depend upon, in my district alone depend upon SNAP. Our food bank is prepared to do everything it can to fill the gap. Nonprofits are scrambling to find resources, anticipating families who will be walking through their doors for the very first time. Families across Pennsylvania are unsure how they will put food on the table, and that's a tragedy. No one deserves to go hungry, and SNAP is a lifeline for millions of Americans. I am proud to stand with my Senate Democrat colleagues in introducing this package, which will use actually the interest from the Rainy Day Fund to help support the program. So that $50 million will just be a portion of the interest that we're gaining on those funds, not taking anything directly from that fund itself. You know, there's another side to this that we can't overlook. SNAP benefits support farmers. SNAP dollars can be used at farmers markets, putting money directly into the pockets of local growers. When SNAP stops, or when those food coupons for WIC or some of the, the senior programs, the sales stop at those farmers markets, and farmers lose revenue. Small agricultural businesses take a hit. One of the greatest strengths of SNAP is that it connects people with fresh, healthy, local food. Recipients are able to buy fruits and vegetables grown right in their own community. Farmers benefit from steady sales, and families get nutritious food, not ramen, right? But foods that are actually going to help build bodies and support good lives. Everybody wins. But that won't happen in November. And the disruption won't only be felt here in Pennsylvania. It will ripple across the entire country during a time when our agricultural sector is already experiencing tremendous disruption. If this drags into December or longer, frankly, that's unthinkable. We can't allow that to happen. So this month, we all need to step up. In addition to the program that I am so hopeful that all of our colleagues here in this building will support, we all have to do our part. If you're able, please donate to or volunteer with your local food bank. And I always like to say, because I have volunteered at the food bank, don't send in the food that's in the back of your cupboard that's expired. Send in food, purchase food that people can actually use now to help feed their families. I cannot imagine the conversation of a mom or dad with a child saying, there's only so much food. You can only have one serving, or you're only going to have one thing tonight. This can't stand. Everybody will be under tremendous strain, but particularly our local food banks. More importantly, let's have empathy. You may not need SNAP, but someone you know, someone you care about, likely does. It could be a family member, a friend, a coworker, a neighbor. They're worried about where the food they need will come from next month. Those phone calls that our food banks are receiving, we're receiving them in our offices, and Senator Haywood talked about conversations that he's had. This is real to people, and after November 1st, it will become even more real. Let's not judge those who need assistance. Let's offer a helping hand and demand that our federal representatives end this shutdown and restore SNAP benefits for all Pennsylvanians. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce my colleague from Western Pennsylvania, Senator Lindsey Williams, also a champion of feeding people.
Thank you, Senator Schwank. I'm Senator Lindsey Williams. I represent the 38th District in Allegheny County. I'm grateful to be standing here with my colleagues and providers, but to be honest, I wish I wasn't. I wish we all didn't have to be here today. I wish we weren't days away from our neighbors not having enough food to eat. I've talked to so many people, like my colleagues, like everybody who's shared, who are scared about how they're going to make ends meet and feed their family. I've seen our community try to meet this moment. I've seen the spike in donations to food banks, and certainly I want to encourage, as others have here said, please, if you have it, donate, volunteer. We are proposing something today to, get at a critical piece to make sure that you can keep going. But I'm pissed that we even have to do it right now. Make no mistake, charitable food pantries cannot fill the demands or the infrastructure that the SNAP program is leaving behind. The feds are counting on our sense of decency to not let people starve while they build a giant golden ballroom at the White House. This let them eat cake attitude, coupled with our nearly 5-month-long state budget impasse, means that Pennsylvanians are going to be the hardest hit by these SNAP cuts. You can see that in the calls that are coming into our office. You can see that in the statistics that were shared today. You can see that in the calls to United Way's 211. Their calls for food assistance statewide went up 25% the day after the federal government announced the SNAP benefits would be frozen. And that's on top of approximately a 60% increase in call volume this year over last year. We can only do so much. No one deserves to go hungry. Not in the richest country in the world, and certainly not here in Pennsylvania. We're calling on the federal government to pass a budget that fully funds SNAP and other human services programs. We need to finally pass a state budget that invests in people, because budgets are moral documents, and we should be better than we are right now. Thank you. Pass it over to Senator Haywood.
So we have some good news to share from our governor, who recognizes the emergency. And just received a text message that he has joined a multi-state lawsuit to sue the national government to release this money. Now, there are reserves. USDA, which has the food stamp or the SNAP program, has reserves. And so this legislation, this lawsuit, is only to release the reserves so that people can get food. That is a very simple equation. Release reserve so that people can eat. I really want to thank, we need to give Governor Shapiro a round of applause for his leadership. That's a lot of leadership. And before I take any questions, I certainly want to yield to our leader, who's been the instrumental in putting this legislation together. And before I yield to the leader, I did want to show this map. Can you just move? Thanks so much. So this is Pennsylvania in a graphic manner, and you can see by the deepening color the extent to which Pennsylvanians in our 67 counties are relying on SNAP food assistance. And you can see it is rural, it is urban, it is suburban. All of our counties have part of the 2 million that are relying on this food assistance. And we shared this graphic so that our communities can know this is not isolated in any extent. Every county, urban, suburban, it's the entire Commonwealth. And we know that there's often some confusion in the culture about who's benefiting. And this map will hopefully help us address that. Senator Costa, if you want to join, you certainly would. I certainly wouldn't take the role of stopping you.
Thank you very much, Senator Haywood, and thank you for leading our effort here on behalf of the Senate Democratic Caucus, talking about this issue that is extremely important, certainly to my colleagues who are all here, and we're all working together in this space to ensure that we do the right thing as a Commonwealth and ensure that we're providing the resources to the food banks and the Meals on Wheels groups to be able to help alleviate, in a part, the crisis that's taking place across our Commonwealth over the course of the next couple of weeks. So I think as Senator Haywood said, unless we get a resolution soon, it's just not November 1st. It's November 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and so on. And that's what we have to address. So I'm happy to be here. I want to thank my caucus members for coming together to address this as Senate Democratic Caucus, make this a high priority for the next several days. Thank you. Thanks, Art.
Thank you. So we'll be very glad to take any questions or comments or donations.
Just to be blunt, time is of the essence. How are you going to get this into law and the money out for food banks?
So one thing I would say in my experience in this building, I have seen legislation move from one side of the building to the other side of the building in a couple of days by suspending various rules. And so as long as our colleagues on this side of the building make it a priority, which I believe, which they certainly should, and colleagues on the other side of the building make it a priority, which they certainly should, I am confident that the governor will sign it. But in my experience here in the last 10 years, I have seen the high priority items move extremely quickly, and there is not a higher priority than making sure that people can eat. So there's a number of suspension of rules, procedures that I believe can get this money out the door.
Administratively, how long does it take for the state to get money from its bank account to the account approval?
So I do believe that there's electronic transfer. It's not, they're not writing checks, right? And because there's electronic transfer, I do not want to speak on behalf of the Department of Agriculture. That would be inappropriate for me. I'm not Mr. Secretary Reddy. But with commitment, we can get it out. Now, would that be Monday instead of Saturday? Possibly. Is Monday better than no support whatsoever? Certainly.
About
Yes.
the numbers that you said at the start, $50
Yes.
million, and then there was a separate mention of
Yeah, 50, 10, and 2.
would it all come from the interest of, I think, Senator Schweik?
Yeah, same source.
And to follow up on that, then we all know that what the president has, the Treasury has a lot more money in it. Would this all come from the money that's been earned since July 1 because the state is holding?
I don't know that we have an accounting kind of balance sheet to determine exactly the start date for the $62 million that we're drawing from, but the interest that the Commonwealth has received on the rainy day fund, I would say is far more than $62 million. Now we're taking all the interest. Now, Senator Costa, you have either first. Yeah, but I don't want you to think that, number one, we don't have the money. That's false. Please don't walk out thinking we don't have the money. Number two, using the interest is the least aggressive approach to the rainy day fund because we hold on to 100% of the principal. I hope that was helpful. Oh, certainly. Introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. Carolyn Comita, I represent Senate District 19 in Chester County. To our media colleague over here who asked about everything takes forever and we need some help right now, what popped into my head immediately was look at what we did in rebuilding I-95 in 12 days instead of months. We can do things in an emergency, and we did it in that case, and we need to do it again now. Thank you.
Any other questions? The lighting is tough, so if you have a question, go ahead.
There's something to be said that with our own state budget late, we just kind of kept making progress on that. And as well as matching on that front, they basically do something here.
No, it's federal money.
Yeah. So this is an emergency largely in part, right, entirely in part, because the national government has said they will not provide SNAP assistance after the 31st of this month. So this program is to respond to the national decision not to provide SNAP assistance. And the lawsuit is also against the national government for refusing to use the reserves that the national government has to feed people. We certainly need a state budget, but yes, go ahead.
Have you communicated anything with the Senate Republicans about this? Are they expressing interest?
We are sharing this to everyone in the General Assembly and the governor's office now.
Nothing privately yet, but they haven't agreed to put this on the floor yet.
We are presenting it now. Now, my hope is that having recognized the need and seeing a clear solution to respond to the need, that all of the caucuses will agree to support this legislation as well as the governor's office. Otherwise, we are in a let them be hungry position, which I cannot see any of my colleagues going back home and defending that. Thank you so much. Mr. Wadien, show the map in terms of who is affected. And you can see that my Senate Democratic colleagues have counties that are affected. My Senate Republican colleagues have counties that are affected, and the same thing for all the members of the House. So this is a solution for not for all of Pennsylvania, as well as all the elected officials who represent these 2 million people. I hope that was helpful. Okay, that's it. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
In our community, we help each other. But when it comes to prescription pain medication, such as opioids, sharing isn't helping, it's harming.